Hallihallo meine Freunde und willkommen zurück in der weiteren Folge Genshin Impact. Ja, in der letzten Folge haben wir aufgehört und jetzt machen wir natürlich weiter. Wir haben ja die Quest ja immer noch ausgewählt und ja, es geht los. Let's go. Ich bin gespannt, was uns alles noch bei, ich habe den Namen schon wieder vergessen. Yelan, glaube ich, war ihr Name. Genau, Yelan. Uns alles erwarten wird. Ja. Ja, meine Freunde, ich habe versucht hier, das kann ich aber auch euch sagen, habe versucht, sie in der Erziehung hier zu ziehen, unsere Yelan. Leider nicht funktioniert. Wir haben sie bekommen. Also Chichi haben wir bekommen von ihrer Erziehung. Ist nicht schlimm. Passiert halt. Entschuldigt. Entschuldigt, okay, das kam jetzt überraschend. Und ich bin tot.
My legs are getting sore. What is wrong with this assessment officer? This is a huge occasion and I don't even get a chair. I've dealt with all kinds of people in my time, but never have I been made to stand while I'm waiting for an appointment.
Oh, I mean, I think it's fine.
That's called being complacent. If you're happy to just accept the way things are, you'll never be able to change anything in the future.
Oh, come on. That's just... Now you're just being unreasonable.
All right, you two. Let's not get into a big argument over this. It's not worth it. Qianwei, that was a bit uncalled for, and Mingbo, cut him some slack. We've all been standing around for a while. It's natural to be getting irritable. Look, how about this? There's no rule saying we're obliged to stand up while we wait, so why don't we borrow some chairs from the guild nearby?
Fine. They're not the best quality chairs, to be sure. But under the circumstances, it would be better than nothing.
It looks like all three candidates have arrived. We'll meet them formally soon. Before that, let me run you through the assessment process. I've split it into 2 stages: current affairs and planning, and face-to-face interview. In the first stage, candidates are required to submit a manifesto for Liyue's development. In the second stage, we will ask them some questions in person. Writing a manifesto takes time, so I informed them of this requirement in advance. These are the reports they submitted.
Wow, one of them is really thick.
It's also worth mentioning a stipulation I gave them. Whoever is appointed as the new Tianshu will be expected to implement their plan as put forward in their manifesto. Failing the occurrence of some cataclysmic event, they will not be permitted to change their plan. Therefore, these 3 piles of documents in front of us represent where each candidate stands on key policy issues. There's still some time. Have a skim through, get a first impression of what each person's proposing. I'll be waiting off to the side. Just let me know when you're done.
Okay, meine Freunde, ja, und da sind wir gestorben. Ja. Habe ich ja gemeint, wir sterben. Konnte man jetzt leider nicht ändern. Leider. Muss ich jetzt ehrlich gestehen. Das war jetzt auch ein bisschen unbeabsichtigt, Leute. Aber wir haben vergessen, die Flüge auszustrecken. Okay. Okay. Ah, so. Man muss aber jetzt einfach nur alles anklicken hier. Und dann ist es sogar schon erledigt, wie es scheint. Ah, wieder mit Yelan. Ja, fertig.
Finished, huh? What did you think?
Everyone took it very seriously.
Of course they did. They have the chance to be picked as the new Tianshu, so you can bet they're putting their best foot forward. And keep in mind, whoever gets in has to execute their plan as written. Nobody wants to have any regrets. That's for me to know and you to find out. We can talk more after the interviews. We'll see the candidates now. Let's do one at a time. Start with Chenwei.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh? So you two are the assessment officers, are you? I had assumed that given the great import of this situation, Lady Ningguang would perhaps be assessing us in person. I certainly hadn't imagined I'd be seeing 2 entirely unfamiliar faces. I trust you've read through my manifesto? I'd be more than happy to clarify any details you found difficult to grasp. It was written with an expert audience in mind, after all.
Mind your tone, mister.
Relax. It wasn't intended as a personal slight against anyone in particular. I was simply stating a fact. Cloud Retainer? You know this Adeptus? Oh, yes, I remember now. You must be the traveler that people are constantly talking about. With your sterling reputation, you must have a respectable level of erudition. Perhaps you will be able to understand the concepts I have put forward. Although I shouldn't get my hopes up.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes. Please introduce yourself.
I'm, Mingbo. I work in the Ministry of Civil Affairs. I've worked there for, 9 years, 5 months, and 3 days. In that time, I've handled, 2,347 cases. I have 12 active cases at the moment. They should be concluded in, 16 days? My current work is related to urban planning, and I'm also responsible for, auditing the accounts. To be more precise, there are 3 parts to the accounts, namely...
Is it just Paimon, or is he not very good at public speaking?
You know what? Let's leave the self-introduction there and move on to some questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Hello. Not gonna lie, I'm feeling a little nervous. What would you like to know? You're here to assess me, so ask away and I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability.
Your manifesto is very wide in its scope, but you don't seem to be personally involved in many of the specific fields. How can you be sure that you have the ability to put your plan into action?
Very fair question. I completely understand where you're coming from. But I'm confident in my plan. I've visited many different places, talked to lots of people with far more expertise than myself, and my manifesto is the conclusion of these efforts. Of course, 2 different problems can be interconnected in very complicated ways, and you might reach 2 very contradictory conclusions depending on which one you're focusing on. What I've tried to do is strike a balance. In other words, present an optimal solution to all the problems as a whole.
How do you plan to determine whether you are right or wrong about your proposed solution being the optimal one?
A great question. Well, I'd start by having my colleagues and the secretaries of the Yuehai Pavilion evaluate any proposals before implementation. Post-implementation, it would all come down to the results. If it turned out that my judgment was to blame for poor results, I would take responsibility.
Nice answer. All right, next question.
He seems like a great guy. Everything he said was thoughtful and logical, and he was just a pleasure to listen to.
Here's my take on what we just learned. As you saw, Qianwei is highly knowledgeable. He proposes many excellent ideas in his manifesto which effectively target the big issues. But he is very proud and incredibly stubborn. He doesn't care much about other people's feelings. Mingbo's plan is more thorough and more measured. You can tell he's meticulous in his work, very detail-oriented. But he and Qianwei are otherwise polar opposites. Mingbo is not very articulate and comes across as very timid in conversation.
Perfect summary. Paimon couldn't agree more. You're good at this, Yelan.
Last but not least, Yi. His manifesto is full of pertinent details, his methodology is sound, and his proposals cover a broad range of fields, which is quite a rare feat. The depth he goes into in each and every area means it can only be a product of painstaking work. Plus, he is modest and good at dealing with people. But what really interests me is that many of his views happen to coincide with Uncle Tien's. Having someone like Yi take the position would certainly put Uncle Tien's mind at rest.
Great!
We'll see. Let's go back and report to Uncle Tien.
Okay. Leute, Onkel Tian hatte den Rückzug angetreten. Also er geht in den Ruhestand und man sucht ja für ihn, wenn ich das jetzt noch richtig im Kopf habe, ja für ihn eine Besetzung. Weil er geht ja bald. So gesehen, Onkel Tian ist ja so einer. Er war ja... Wir haben ihn irgendwann mal in der Story mal kennengelernt. Ich weiß aber nicht, wann das in der Story war. Aber wir haben ihn kennengelernt. Ich glaube, Onkel Tian war dabei, wo wir Ganjus Quest gemacht haben, also ihre. Das war bei ihrer Legendenquest, glaube ich. Da haben wir Onkel Tian, glaube ich, kennengelernt. Glaube ich. Ich bin mir nicht sicher. Aber es kann auch sein, dass ich mich irre, Leute. Ich weiß dann nicht, wann wir ihn kennengelernt haben, wann wir ihn getroffen haben. Aber da ist er schon. Aber sein Gesicht und wie er aussieht, kommt mir bekannt vor.
I see. Then it's more or less as I anticipated.
Alright, then let me ask this. The ideas in Jur-E's manifesto are very similar to your own. Is there any particular reason behind this?
Oh, I didn't want to say anything when I gave you the list of candidates, for fear of affecting your judgment. But I can tell you now. Those 3 candidates have all studied under me in the past. It's only natural that they share some similarities with me. But Xin Wei went on to focus on his business, and Ming Guo has always been occupied with his work at the Ministry of Civil Affairs. Of all of them, Juri was with me for the longest duration.
Whoa! So how did you get to know them all, Uncle Tian?
Chen Wei was referred to me by an old friend. Ming Guo came to my attention in the course of my work, and as for Juri, that was pure happenstance. We first met while fishing. Gradually, as we got to know each other, we started discussing all sorts of topics. Juri came from a poor family, and his parents died when he was very young. But he was a gifted student and a fast learner. He reminded me of a younger version of myself, so I started out giving him a few words of advice when we were out fishing and noticed how quickly he got on. Quite. And now, all of a sudden, he's grown into a mature young man. It's a joy to see, but it also gets one thinking. The young are growing up, and I am growing old. How time flies. No one can escape the cycle of life.
I don't know, Uncle Tian. You still seem in pretty good shape to me. You might have another few years of work left in you, don't you think?
Oh, you. There's really no need to console me. Having less energy than I used to isn't such a bad thing. It just means I finally have a good reason to retire and spend my days doing what old men like me should be doing. Going fishing whenever I feel like it.
Sounds like you sure love fishing, Uncle Tian.
Ooh, there's nothing quite like fishing to pass the time. Ooh, and freshly caught fish, they make the most beautiful fish soup with barely any preparation required.
Fresh fish soup. Sounds tasty.
Doesn't it? Also, some time ago, Juri purchased a very special recipe from an old fisherman. When we've been fishing recently, Juri always brings some extra ingredients he prepared in advance. The addition of these makes the soup taste even more wonderful. That flavor makes for a fond memory. But at my age, who knows how many more chances I have left to taste it again.
Sorry, Leute.
Oh, can Paimon come next time too? Paimon really wants to try it.
Let's get back to the matter at hand. Uncle Tian, we've reported back. Do you have a verdict?
I appointed you as the assessment officer, and I trust your judgment. Had you not asked me why Juri's ideas were so similar to mine, I was not going to mention my history with any of them. This decision must be guided by what is fair and right. Please disregard all other considerations and make your final decision only after a thorough review of each candidate's talents and capabilities. Remember, you must be thorough.
Understood. Come on, let's go talk somewhere else.
Bye-bye, Uncle Tien. Look after yourself.
Tja, meine Freunde.
So, it's gonna be G,
Oh.
right? His manifesto was written well, and he's the best speaker.
Easy. Let's not rush. There's no time limit for this assessment.
Huh? So, are you gonna give them more tests or something?
No, nothing like that. The assessment itself is complete. But let me give you a word of advice. Things are not always as they appear. The biggest no-no in intelligence work is to only get information from the person of interest themselves. The truth is almost always hidden beneath many layers of deception. You have to get information through many different channels. For example, Wenyuan, Shanghua.
Yes?
Lady Yelan, what are your orders?
Ugh! Who are they? Where did they come from?
Did they scare you? These two are Wenyuan and Shanghua. They work for me. As my trusted assistants, they are always standing guard nearby. They also perform various assignments as required. Shanghua is a business expert who gets his information by trading. Wenyuan relies on word of mouth. And there's also Upei, who's not here right now.
That meathead must have been out there on sea surveillance for some time now. Is he all right? I seem to remember that he can't swim.
Nothing can take that guy down. Certainly not a little wind and waves.
Shanghua, visit all the commerce guilds and look into Qianwei's background. Wenyuan, go to the Ministry of Civil Affairs and look through Mingbo's work files.
Yes, ma'am.
So what about Juri?
Juri, well, obviously as the most promising candidate, we will be investigating him ourselves. Let's go to the docks first. Lots of people passing through there. You can find out all kinds of things.
If we're looking for information, why don't we try talking to Bulai, the owner of Wanyu Boutique? He does business at the North Wharf. Maybe he has some news for us.
That's actually not a bad idea. Let's go and ask him.
So, meine Freunde. Ja, ich bin gespannt. Nächster Abschnitt. Das ist aber jetzt noch nicht das Ende, ne? Noch nicht. Das war gerade der erste Abschnitt alles, ne? Es kommt jetzt noch eins und dann kommt ja der letzte Abschnitt, wo man das Urgestein dann kriegen kann. Ich bin auf jeden Fall gespannt. Okay. Wir müssen auf jeden Fall nach da, meine Freunde. Wir müssen aber noch da vergessen, nach dieses, vor allem machen wir noch das hier schnell. Weil, das haben wir gemacht, das war ja die Quest hier. Es gibt ja noch das hier, meine Freunde. Das machen wir auf jeden Fall nach den Aufnahmen, wenn wir die Quest mit ihr beendet haben hier, mit unserer Yelan. Weil, ihr seht selber, es sind nur noch 8 Stunden und 37 Minuten. Leute, es tut mir auch sehr leid, das muss ich aber jetzt auch ehrlich sagen.
What's Bulai doing here today?
Muss ich aber jetzt auch ehrlich ganz kurz sagen, und zwar, der Punkt ist dies, ihr habt es schon mitbekommen. Ich weiß halt nicht, ob das jetzt wieder ein bisschen geregelt hat, so. Davor sind noch weitere Aufnahmen dazwischen. Aber momentan bei mir, bis ihr diese Folge seht, sind schon höchstwahrscheinlich wieder 2 bis 3 Wochen vergangen. Bin ich ehrlich, Leute, erst dann seht ihr diese Folge. Da sind schon wieder, wie gesagt, 2, 3 Wochen vergangen. Dann, keine Ahnung, wo ich dann schon mit meinem Let's Play alles bin. Und ja, momentan habe ich privat ein bisschen viel was zu tun, alles bei mir, Leute. Wegen Ausbildung und so alles und Schule. Deswegen habe ich leider, als Entschuldigung sage ich jetzt, das kommt voll spät eigentlich, weil da sind noch voll viele Folgen eigentlich dazwischen, aber ich sag's trotzdem mal. Ja. Habe ich leider nicht mehr so viel Zeit, aber ich werde trotzdem versuchen, immer noch was aufzunehmen. Ich möchte ja unbedingt mit euch die Genshin-Story unbedingt weiter erzählen, weil, wie ihr bereits schon wisst, sind wir ja schon bei 2.7. Leute, Somero ist fast dort. Wir sind bald bei Somero und da will ich unbedingt mit euch hin. Ein komplett neues Element.
Your asking price for this batch is just too high. I can't buy in at this price. How am I supposed to turn a profit?
Come on, hear me out. I'm telling you, this is the single best batch of Sunsettias ever. You won't find anyone who disputes that. I accidentally dropped one into a well, and even the water turned sweet.
Even so...
All right. I'll let you in on a little secret. The boss of Second Life also wants to buy from me, but I haven't responded yet. If you won't take him, I'll just have to partner with them instead, and neither of us wants that.
Okay, well, when you put it that way, I'll accept your asking price. I'll take all your stock. Don't sell a single one to Second Life. Oh, what are you doing here? And to be clear, these Sunsettias are mine. I got to them first. Don't get any ideas.
Actually, we want to ask you about a guy called Juri. Have you heard of him before?
Juri? Yes, he's quite well known. I've heard a story about him. They say he was born into poverty. His parents died when he was young, and he was treated cruelly by the local community. One of his neighbors was terribly rude to him all the time, but Juri never retaliated. And when his neighbor went bankrupt, he even helped support the family. He returned cruelty with kindness, injustice with peace offerings. A gentleman of talent and character, and... oh, how did I not notice him sooner? In fact, maybe I'm not too late. If I could hire him to be the brand ambassador for Wanyo Boutique.
Oh, he sounds like a decent man. We can finally breathe a sigh of relief.
Why are you asking about him anyway? You aren't looking for a brand ambassador too, are you? Well then, in that case, the higher bidder takes the... Ah, that's Juri right over there. Why don't we go and talk to him?
Where?
It's him, all right. Looks like he's chatting with Linlong. Come on, let's follow them and listen in. Try not to let him see you. We want this information to be as truthful as possible.
I'll just go and fetch an employment contract. And hey, don't try and cut me out of this. Hey!
I understand. Let's walk and talk. So, you were looking to buy a wineware set? Oh, now I can see that you're a connoisseur, so I won't bother trying to con you. I trust you understand our shop quite well?
The truth is, an old friend of mine, who likes to have a drink now and then, he fancies himself as a man of culture, but doesn't care for needless extravagance. So I thought I might buy him a set of high-quality fakes.
How very thoughtful of you. Leave it to me, then. Come and collect it at Shigu Antiques whenever is convenient.
Thank you very much, Miss Linlong.
It's my pleasure, Mr. Juri. These days, it's quite rare for someone of your standing to still keep up with their old friends. It's nice to see. I'll be sure to pick out a good set for you. You can count on me. Juri seems to get along really well with everyone. Are you satisfied now, Yelan? Seems like everyone thinks Juri's a great guy.
We shouldn't jump to conclusions just yet. Let's go check out the wharf where he usually goes fishing.
Do we have to? Wait, you're not just trying to dig up some dirt on Juri because you want to be Tianshu yourself, are you?
Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But hey, if I do become Tianshu, I'll look out for you guys. You'll be able to try all the finest food for free. How does that sound?
We will? Well, come on! Off to the South Wharf we go!
Na, Palmer lässt sich immer so leicht manipulieren, Leute. Das ist halt immer noch insane. Ja, meine Freunde, was ich noch sagen wollte ist, wenn man darüber nachdenkt, wie viel wir schon in Genshin gemacht haben, man muss halt überlegen, wir sind schon bei Folge 300 irgendwas, ne? Verdammt nochmal, Leute, wir sind bei Folge 300 irgendwas. Das ist schon insane einfach. Wie weit wir schon einfach Genshin machen. Wenn ich über nachdenke, ich habe sogar vor ein paar Tagen, Leute, bin ich ehrlich, vor ein paar Tagen echt einfach mal meine alten Folgen angeschaut. So von Folge 20, 25 so, 30, 40 so. Vielleicht sogar, die letzte Folge war es, glaube ich, so Folge 90, 80. Und da denke ich mir so, Alter, holy shit, Alter. Wie lange ist das denn her mit Genshin? Wo glaube ich überhaupt gerade hin? Ich laufe ja vollkommen falsch. Wisst ihr, meine Freunde, deswegen, und jetzt muss man überlegen, das ist Folge 300 und wir sind gerade erst bei Somero. Versteht ihr, was ich meine? Das ist halt die Sache dabei. Und jetzt muss man halt noch überlegen, wir machen noch später Somero. Dann sind wir irgendwann beim Wasserland, dann kommt das Feuerland und dann kommt das Eisland, wo die Göttin Zarin zum Beispiel ist. Und jetzt muss man überdenken, wenn man das Folge 300 ist, welche Folge ist dann das da? Also ich denke hundertprozentig, Leute, dass beim Wasserreich, dass wir erst bei Folge 500 irgendwas erst wahrscheinlich da sind erst. Wenn Folge 500 rausgekommen ist. Das ist meine Vermutung, dass erst dann so Folge 500, 600 so das Wasserreich beginnen wird. Also, man merkt schon, meine Vermutung ist, Leute, bevor wir Genshin komplett fertig haben, kann es sein, dass es über 1000 Folgen sind, bis wir Genshin fertig haben. Ich freue mich auf jeden Fall mega drauf, Leute. Genshin wird auf jeden Fall noch ein paar Jahre da bleiben. Und wir werden natürlich mit euch zusammen Genshin komplett durch Let's Playen. Bis zum Ende der Story. Das wird echt traurig, wenn die Story endet dann.
The wharf is as busy as ever. I hear the anglers here sometimes sell their fish to the nearby fishmongers. Let's see what Uncle Soon has to say.
Muss man halt überlegen, ne? Ja, das muss man mal überlegen, meine Freunde. Wir machen auch für heute jetzt erst Schluss hier. Aber das wollte ich euch noch sagen. Man muss halt das mal überlegen. Wenn Genshin irgendwann endet, Leute. Genshin endet ja nicht ab nächstes Jahr oder so. Genshin wird wahrscheinlich erst so nach 4 oder 5 Jahren zu Ende sein. Es gibt ja 7 Akts, ne? Es gibt ja insgesamt 7. Ja. Wir werden auch so gesehen auch erst am Akt 6 erst erfahren, warum Zarin die göttlichen Herzen sammelt. Es muss ja einen Grund haben. Es wird natürlich bei manchen spekuliert oder vermutet, warum sie die göttlichen Herzen sammelt. Ich weiß es auch nicht, Leute. Aber man muss halt überlegen. Dieses Jahr kommt Somero. Nächstes Jahr wird wahrscheinlich das Wasserreich auftauchen. Aber wann genau das Wasserreich kommen wird, weiß ich auch nicht. Aber ja, meine Freunde. Ich denke, so nach 3, 4 Jahren wird hier Genshin und genauso wie die Map ganz anders aussehen. Und das ist halt insane. Wenn man darüber nachdenkt. Ich habe Genshin ein bisschen später erst angefangen. Alles mit der Zeit. Weil, wer sich noch erinnern kann, ich habe Genshin angefangen, da war der Eisberg hier schon mit dabei. Da war er schon drauf. Und der Eisberg kam eigentlich sogar später, Leute. Davor konnte man diesen Eisberg hier noch gar nicht betreten hier. Davor war hier noch alles zu. Wir waren ja noch die ganze noch da, wo Inazuma noch gar nicht da war. Wir haben ja zusammen Inazuma erkundet. Und schon bald werden wir auch Somero erkunden, genauso wie die anderen Länder, die irgendwann erscheinen werden. Ist auf jeden Fall ein sehr, sehr krasses Abenteuer. Ich freue mich auf jeden Fall mega drauf. Aber gut, meine Freunde, jetzt habe ich ja auch ein bisschen zu viel von alles geredet, von der Zukunft und so alles. Ich verabschiede mich erstmal und wir sehen uns in der nächsten Folge. Euer Marshu. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschaußen.